Okay guys, we painted at 90% the skin tone on the chef, and now before to finish totally his skin tone we need to move on other parts of the miniature. I jump now on the tentacles. My idea for the tentacles is to paint like a similar to a lobster texture, lobster colors. By the way, at the end, this is a tentacles from a galaxy ambient, so could look like whenever you want, like a snake or a spider or a mecha. So for my idea is to keep the reddish dominant color from this part of the miniature. So painting the tentacles with orange and white will be a good idea to keep this kind of tones. So, to paint the tentacles I'll be really sketchy, really free, and I just prepared on my on my palette a bit of fluo orange ink. I will use this to create my color. To create it I prefer to use a bit of ivory, a bit of yellow, and add a bit of inks to change the tonality. Okay. I will create something between orange and white, so I prefer starting with a color soft. In this way I can create the first step, really soft, just to start to place lights and shadows. Then I'll paint all my white areas with the white, and then at the end I'll go to enforce the orange with inks and glazing. I don't paint directly with red or orange because it will be very difficult at the end paint with white on the orange. So I prefer paint directly with a very soft and smooth color, like this tonality is a sort of whitish orange that will be allowing me to can change everything in every moment. Okay, for this part I start to paint it in very rough mode. I don't care because will be necessary for sure several steps to cover. So we can just look at the strong contrast between the orange and the blue. So our common rules every time is the same. I don't have fear, I'm not scared by use a lot of color on miniature, because it's just a base and we can every time change, recover, fix. With acrylics you have a lot of space of movement, especially if you use, like in this case, the color very well diluted. And look also at this kind of strange texture caused due to the drying. Maybe we could try to use this strange texture to create something of interesting. I don't know, maybe. So sometimes mistake or things that happen for casualty could be a good occasion to create something. Okay, at the same time we can also put directly a bit of orange here, this iron oxide, and put directly on the shadows, or on just on a part that we could paint more darker. Maybe the end of the tentacles could be more dark. As you can see, nothing of this was scheduled. In my idea I got a concept, I got an idea, and now I'm working only to try to give to this idea a form. And look like also to the easy process to create a transition, a blending, a sort of change of colors. If you think to realize something similar by glazes, probably will take you hours. Okay, we're back to our palette. At the same time we can look at the most clear, most light part of our tentacles. So I mix a bit of ivory and white. And maybe I start to create a bit of texture. Directly on our piece. To create texture, usually I put thick color on the piece, then with a clean brushes I start to move the color to create this kind of effect. This is a funny part for me, because there are no rules, there are no expectation about the results of the tentacles, because it's only creation of my imagination at the moment, so I can create it in every way, with every kind of method. I can paint with inks, I can paint with heavy body color, I can paint with oils. I'm free. I'm really free to do whatever I want, and I think this is one of the best part on this hobby, on this activity, because if you are free to express yourself, if you are free to tell story using color, it's for sure one of the best way to spend time painting. And and you can see how I'm painting the white part during the process of drying of the orange one. In this way, in some parts the white is covering the orange, and in other parts the white is melting with the orange, and this allow me to obtain really fast results about texture just in few seconds. This is more like a jam painting session. And another time on my palette I'll find everything I need to continue to paint all the surface. Look at the strong contrast between the orange and the blue on this side, and on the other side we got a sort of reddish zone, a sort of muted palette. Okay, now we need to wait for a complete drying to observe all the texture that we have created. In this step we created texture just to give us a base to work. Now in the following step we will go deepness of the texturing and of the increasing contrast for the tentacles. After the drying process, we can start to use this underpaint texture to create the real one. Now I will focus on this part to explain the the idea about the texture and how use them. For these tentacles I will paint this center of the tentacle of white, and then create some texture that help me to move from white to the orange. My technique is every time similar, because I'm just putting colors, tick one, tick color, and then I move on the surface of the miniature. I also love create a bit of thickness of paint on the surface of this kind of texture. Once again, we need to wait the dry of this step. Okay, now that we have built up our white part, we can back with a darker color, and we start to use airbrush and inks to create shadows, the most darker part, and to create a vibrancy of color. So to do this, I use directly on the airbrush orange fluo. I had just a couple of drops of water. And now I start to cover all the area with this ink. I try only to avoid the middle of the white part. Okay. Also in this case we need to wait every time for the drying process between each step. We add a bit of red to our mix. And we start to paint a bit the shadows and the darkest area of our tentacle. Okay. And we could increase more this contrast, adding now a bit of violet inside. Now you can look at one of the reasons why I don't refine it very well, the flesh tone, the skin tone, because now I go to cover part of the skin tone. I had some lights and shadows in the general view of the character, so some parts of the miniature will be done all together at the end of the process. Okay, we do a last step of ink process with Airbrush with a muted violet. Muted violet that is a matte color, sorry, is a transparent color that allow us to enforce a lot the deepness of our shadows. In this case, I'll go to paint not only the tentacles, but I will cover everything in the model. All the shadows, to create a general shadows for all the part of the miniature. So my point of view in this case is from the under part of the miniature. In this way I reach a dark color in the most of the darker area and in the shadows on to the end on the top of the tentacles. And this is a very easy and fast method to keep this kind of results in 5 minutes. Okay, now I need to cover again with black some part close to the tentacles to divide, like for example inside the shirt, because I obviously covered some part of the shirt with orange, and these create a bit of confusion between the parts.